Hi, it's Brendan, and it's time to give a progress report on my efforts to produce gluten-free bread. Um, so let's get right into it. As I had said when I first began discussing this, I wanted to start with a sourdough method, of course, using a long natural fermentation to get all the benefits of that from making bread. And so I grabbed a couple of recipes after looking at this on the internet. This was the one with the simplest ingredient list. It was just millet, sorghum, arrowroot, white rice, xanthan gum. You can see it pretty much kind of, collapsed, probably put too much water in it. Not a very attractive looking bread. But, there's things you can do to, work on that. First time I made it after all. The second one, also using a sourdough technique, but a more complicated formula. This one had brown rice, tapioca, sorghum, oat flour, millet. Also had butter, sugar, xanthan gum, and eggs. And it came out with a better texture, a little bit better look to it, right? Still didn't rise very high. And so those were my two sourdough breads. Also, I had asked for anybody who had a good recipe or some advice for me on how to do this to, send it along. And one of our Facebook followers, Lisa, did send me her advice, and it was this recipe off the internet. This one's quite a complicated recipe. It includes potato starch, tapioca, more xanthan gum, brown rice, sorghum. It's got potato flakes, milk powder, also eggs. What made this one different is it's yeast raised, so you're actually using the same kind of commercial yeast that most of us use at home to make bread with. And it produced this bread here, which it's almost kind of plastery in a way. This one definitely rose the highest. It had the best lift to it, and it behaved pretty well in the oven, didn't sink or anything. Okay, so all of them clearly have structural things that you could play with over time to make them look better, make them a little more shelf ready, more presentable. But really the problem is they all taste really bad, and I mean, everybody in the bakery tried it, and most people couldn't swallow it, right? And there was one woman came into the bakery, this happens every single day. Someone comes into the bakery asking for gluten-free this or gluten-free that. And the staff tell them, yeah, I'm sorry, there's gluten everywhere in here, and that's normal conversation was starting, but I just happened to go on by and I said, hey, you know what? I made a couple gluten-free loaves, right? Do you want to try it? And she looked at me with horror and oh, geez, no, I don't want to try that. It's just my niece is coming over and she was just diagnosed with, da 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 da. I think that's probably a lot of the requests that we get here is people who are trying to ask on behalf of somebody else. See, when I compare this situation to, say, tartine bread, which has a technique, a production technique that is supposed to make it so much better for us, more digestible, better on your system, and better tasting, right? And it's got so few ingredients, right? When I first started making it, the tartine bread was only like this high, and I still put it out and let people try it because it still tasted good, right? And I knew that I could work on the appearance, and here we are now. This, I'm afraid, I gotta say it's a fail, right? But it's a fail that I don't really feel bad about, because there's things we've learned from this. Now, it seems like a bad business decision from the point of view of a bakery, because there is no request that we get here more often than people asking for gluten-free. So I have to kind of take a moment to look at, my customer universe. So I've made this chart here to kind of help us understand it. Okay, let's just say that this line here represents 100% of the people, right? Now there's, let's say, 1% of the population who are celiacs. And for these people, I know you've got a rough time, insisting on your identity, right? You always have to say, no, I'm a true celiac. I'm an actual, real celiac. I need for sure really gluten-free, right? To kind of emphasize, the fact that it's medically necessary for you, right? And a lot of other people are, on the bandwagon, as it were. Okay, these true celiacs aren't really shopping for food in this bakery. A lot of people are probably asking on their behalf. They've got mothers and cousins and friends and whatnot who are asking me if I can get something for them, but if you are a celiac, then you know this probably isn't your place to buy food, right? Okay, and then there's another, I don't even really know, 20%, 30, 40, maybe 50% of the population who is really kind of a mixed bag. Okay, some of them have really done their research and they've read and maybe had like different advice from different medical professionals or websites or whatever, and they have developed a pretty good understanding of what their options are as far as running their diet in a gluten-free or wheat-free way, right? And then there's folks who have just read a book or just heard, some advice somewhere, or maybe they just tried it and they're trying to go wheat-free or partially wheat-free or different kinds of wheat or whatever, and they feel better, or whatever, right? And if that's working for you, then fantastic. Sometimes it's there's a lot of people in this category who are asking for gluten-free and they have no intention of being gluten-free themselves, but they're trying to shop for somebody else or they're trying to help someone else feel better. Okay. And then there's like the other, say, half of the population who just don't know and don't care and they're going to eat whatever they want to eat. Okay, so what do I have to contribute now that I have given up on gluten-free bread? Well, within this group of the yellow segment here, which could be, I don't know, from 20 to 50% of people, say, I can keep making bread better. I can keep using untreated flour. I can still trying to source a decent source of organic flour that is, at an affordable price, and I can actually rely on the supply for. I can keep using sourdough techniques and long fermentation techniques to break down the proteins and starches in there. And because I know from the point of view of all of the people in here, gluten-free is it's a term that just seems like the easy button for you, right? So when you're in a grocery store, you're in a restaurant, you're over at somebody's house or whatever, you're trying to make some arrangements for eating, which we all have to do. You just think you can cover all your bases just by saying gluten-free, and it's the easy button, right? For me, it's not the easy button because I'm a bakery. I make bread. And gluten isn't an ingredient you add into bread. Gluten is bread. And so there just isn't a way that I can comprehend for me to make gluten-free bread that, like I said, nobody could even eat this, right? It was that bad tasting. Okay, so if you really are over on this end of the chart, right? Okay, if you're someone who has really made a commitment to your lifestyle that doesn't involve wheat, then there's all kinds of great stuff for you. There's Vietnamese food, there's Thai food, there's Indian curries, there's just fruits and vegetables, right? There's lots of, but you're probably going to have to learn how to cook, right? But there's lots of things you can do, and a lot of you know it, right? But if you want to keep eating the normal Western diet of sandwiches and hot dogs and hamburgers and lots of bread items, I don't have that solution for you. And so for my business decisions, I have to put my effort into things that are actually going to hopefully work, right? And I've got other ideas, and will be more videos about that. So I think that's where I'm going to be heading now, is with other directions for things that do include wheat. Meanwhile, if you have any ideas for gluten-free sweets, there is certainly going to be a demand for that. There still is a demand for that. I would love to get some links or some recipes from you, because certainly there are things. Presumably, we can cover up some of the unpleasant aftertastes from the gluten-free baking with enough icing sugar or chocolate chips or something, and it would still be good for me to have some of those type of items. So thanks to Lisa for sending me that recipe, and I hope that someone else can send me some other stuff more towards gluten-free party time sweet treat stuff. Thank you, and have a good day.